Hello and welcome back to episode 56 of the Making It podcast. I'm Jamie. Welcome back for another episode this week, talking about everything that's been happening in the week and also a few little bits as well along the way from the week, from our perspective, things that we've seen online or things we've heard about, just interesting stuff. Or at least I'd like to think it's interesting anyway. Dan, welcome back to the podcast, mate. How's it going?
Good. I've had a really good week actually. There's not been too much struggle. It's just been actually a nice week, exciting week. I've been feeling good within myself. Uni starts back up this week, so I'll be back in the hustle and bustle of things. But no, it's been nice. I went to visit my granddad, which was really lovely. Went to Liverpool over the weekend, which was a class night. Went to a few Irish bars. Got kicked out of one of them for falling asleep because it's one of their policies, but I was all right.
Can't handle it.
And then and then fell asleep. No, not fell asleep. Coached the
Again.
freeze on Wednesday with Sean. That was a really good experience because I know on the last episode, obviously, I spoke about how I was debating that decision, and I came to the conclusion it's because I was afraid of jumping up and helping out with a high team at the union. After doing it, I realised like there was nothing to be afraid of, and I'm so glad I made the jump. Unfortunately, the result was 2-1 loss. However, it was a great experience. Spoke in the changing room with them, did the warm up. Their captain for the day said to me that he thought I was really good. So it was just really good, a great experience, and another period of growth for me. And I was thinking to myself last night when I was in bed, I was thinking, you know what, I'm quite proud of myself for that. So going into the new week now, embracing life, embracing things, and no, I'm feeling good, and I'm looking forward to another weekly conversation with you, brother. But how's your week been? Because I know yours has been a good week too.
It's been a good one, bro. Yeah, it's been good. I've done a fair bit myself. Obviously, I've had a lot of work and stuff. Work hours are starting to creep up a little bit again. So I think I'm getting that normality. Probably the biggest thing from this week is that I have booked my flight home now. So there is a vision or a light at the end of the tunnel. That makes it sound like death when it's not. There's something to look forward to, but also something to not look forward to, which I'd quite like to talk about a little bit later on when a journey is coming to an end. And there's still opportunity on the other side, but you kind of don't know what it is. How do you view it? But other than that, I've been to the gym, sending Dan some pics of the Popeye arms and stuff. But no, it's just been nice. It's felt like a very disciplined week. I've actually built myself a morning routine for exercise and stuff. And I've stuck by it pretty much all week, other than the last couple of days because I've been on some nights out. So yeah, beach yesterday as well. Went to a place called Parsley Bay. It was awesome. I got so burnt. I didn't even realize it. We went for a
I'll
swim.
put sun cream on.
I put loads of sun cream on. I mean, when I say I put loads, I put shitloads of sun cream on because I know I'm a white boy from England and I know that I don't last in the sun, especially in Australia where the UV was like 13 yesterday or 12 or something. Ridiculous UV, right? And the UV is what really gets you. And it just cooked me. So I got out of the water and, obviously had this like homemade iced tea and an espresso. I'm just thinking of you, Dan. I was like, fucking hell, what should I get? I was like, oh, I'll get an espresso. And I was thinking, Dan, I'll be taking the mick out of me now.
Never forget when you first discovered it.
Best thing ever, by the way. Just don't do any exercise after you have one because it sends me mental. But yeah, went home after that, went on a night out, had a really nice time. So, but I realised how much I just need to A, swim more for my fitness because it's so tiring, and B, just go to the beach more. I've said this before and I didn't go and do it. Well, now I need to make it my absolute mission to go at least once or twice a week just to chill. So lots of chilling, bit of working, a couple of bits here and there. But it's been a good one, bro. And I think, we're 4 weeks into January now, nearly. It's been a really exciting start to the year, I think. I mean, it's quite weird to think we're already almost a month in. But what's kind of been your verdict of January so far? What precedent have you set for this year going forward, do you think?
I remember at the start of the year, I had this quite motivating feeling, and I'm sure I touched on it in the New Year, New Me episode. Go listen to that if you haven't already. And I'm noticing that I'm starting to do the things that maybe towards the back end of 2025 I was holding myself back from doing. For instance, when I have like a surge of confidence to do something like speaking to a random stranger or going and coaching with the freeze, I'm doing it. Asking a maybe a difficult question, having a difficult conversation. I'm noticing that once you get the ball rolling with these things and you've got that momentum with your confidence, it becomes a lot easier. Just little things like, for example, yesterday I'm at the train station and I saw this girl next to me and she was making a TikTok. So I was quite curious to know what her sort of story is, and she's trying to become a graphic designer. And like sometimes before, maybe coming towards the back end of last year, um, I would have thought, oh, maybe I should ask her about it, but then I just get a bit too nervous and don't do it. Or go up to a random stranger and tell them about the podcast. And I just noticed this year, the things that I was kind of a bit too scared about doing towards the back end of last year, I'm actually doing a bit more now. So just with a confidence thing, I'm feeling good, and I want to just keep the ball rolling with that. Now, when it comes to feeling nervous, that's something I wanted to touch on with you, brother. I will ask you the same question: how's January been for you? Um, but on the back end of that question, when you have big moments in your life, I think, you going on the radio for the first time, you doing the Premier League production, if you want to call it that, your first commentary when you were in your suit. Do you have a really almost overwhelming feeling of nervousness? And if so, how do you deal with that? But first of all, how do you what are your thoughts on January so far?
So to answer the first part, January has been. I think the first week was actually very humbling and maybe not so amazing, because I was kind of worried that I wanted too much and I felt like I had to do it all at once. And it's important to realize that like the new year doesn't have to be the trigger for you doing things, right? It just has to be. It's just another day, right? It's just literally just another day that we put a label on. And we're all guilty, myself included, probably you, Dan, of going in your mind, this year I'm going to make a difference. When in reality, it should just be today I'm going to make a difference. Not tomorrow, not yesterday I should have. It's like today I'm going to make a difference. It should be that. So, I think that the first week tough, but then after that, bro, I think really good. And I think the things that coincided with that were exercise, were discipline, was just eating better food. Since I've been cooking more, since I've been eating more, I have been more healthy. I've been way more productive. I've felt a lot better in myself. And I have noticed at least even small physical change for me. And for me, that improves my mental health. My confidence has improved. I feel like you say, even with just trying to speak to someone random, you don't feel as nervous anymore to break into that conversation with the bloke making you coffee in the morning, or that person you bump into on the street when you're not looking because you're looking at your phone or something like that. All these things, like just speaking to someone. You do it in other scenarios. Why wouldn't you do it in person? You do it on LinkedIn. You
I
do it
think it would
on
be interesting to see how long this sort of confidence lasts with the both of us. We can kind of track it throughout the year.
I think so, but also it's important to remember, and I've always said this, that my confidence, my mental health, and all these things, they are on a roller coaster. They're constantly up and down, but it's about how you can minimize the extremities of both of them. Like I don't want to be like too happy because I know that crash is going to be crazy, but that's also not to say that I don't give myself an opportunity to have a bit of fun, and all those things. So January for me, just looking after myself a lot more, and that has contributed to other things like a dominoes effect. But when it comes to those big moments you mentioned, it depends how much leeway you give me. If you give me an opportunity to worry or to make an excuse to maybe not do it in the moment, maybe I'll struggle, because it's like if you put me in sort of a situation where there wasn't a lot of things around me and you said make something, I'd probably do better than you putting me in a huge room with loads of stuff. You put me in a huge room with loads of stuff, I'm just going to jump between things and just like make a percentage of something, but loads of them. But if you just give me a small room with one focus, with a little bit of pressure on there, I know I'm going to do well with something. And when it comes to the radio stuff, there's been so many times, bro, where something's been against me. You know, my commentary of Forest getting promoted, the moment we scored, everything. It's not even. I don't even have a copy of that. I found out it didn't get recorded after doing the commentary, right? And that kind of taught me a lesson because I was putting so much pressure on myself that it was being recorded. That like it was good, and that was only what my first year of doing commentary, and it didn't even matter. And when it comes to doing something like a commentary professionally, for example, you know, where you're actually being paid by someone to do it, you just have to remember you're there to do a job. You're not there to prove yourself. You've already done that. That's why you got given the job. And the biggest change that I think I've made, or at least I'm trying to make more, is that I don't need to worry about the job I've got at hand if someone's trusted me to do it, because that should tell you enough. What you should worry about is making sure that you're organised to do that job, because that's where you can slip up. And that's where I've slipped up on so many occasions, because maybe I didn't prepare my notes correctly, maybe I missed a piece of equipment at home, and one little thing going wrong can impact you. So,
Do
but
you feel nervous? Like those sort of moments, do you feel nervous beforehand, and how do you deal with that emotion?
with the commentary thing, not as much anymore. The professional ones, yes, because usually a different team, it's a different environment, the expectations are quite different. Um, but you know, you're always naturally going to feel a little bit of nervousness. The things I feel mostly nervous in, bro, are things that I don't practice a lot. So my coaching, I think that I can talk to you about things. You know, I have ideas, and it's like just the actual doing it. It's like, whew, that's really like that's nervy. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I think big moments. It just kind of depends. It just comes and goes. The nervousness, like I said, I've done Wembley now, and didn't feel that nervous in the FA Cup, and that's Wembley. But also, my emotions are tied to a football club that I'm commentating on. So, well, what about you, bro? What are your kind of? How do you deal with nervousness in situations? Do you make the situation bigger than it actually is?
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about how your commentary for the Forest when they got promoted wasn't recorded. And so that whole time when you're putting pressure on yourself, you're having all the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings about the commentary. Realistically, you're right. They're coming from a perception of the fact it's being recorded, the perception of other people are going to be hearing it. When in reality, that obviously, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And I
Mm.
think it's interesting because I've just started reading a book called The Magic Shop, and I've got a funny feeling it's going to take this sort of direction in terms of how we perceive things affects how we feel. And I get very nervous in moments where I'm doing something new for the first time. I'm doing like a big moment. I think one that comes to my mind, for example, is let's say for the first time I've got a new team that I'm coaching and I'm talking to them all in the dressing room for the first time. I'll be quite nervous about that. I'll be thinking a lot about it. Or let's say I'm doing a presentation in front of a load of people. It often involves a crowd, let's say, and that's when I feel nervous. But I think my relationship with being nervous is I've come to realize it's good to be nervous. And when I was younger, I used to get very nervous about like, you know, competing in football, competing in athletics, and I used to try. I did really dislike the feeling, and I tried to avoid it. I tried to fight it. I'd even make my mum nervous before I cross country because I'm shaking and moving about so much. But once you come to accept that being nervous is a good thing, and that you're actually nervous for something which is part of your growth, on the other end of it is something very good for you. I think once you have that perception of it, it does help a lot. And for me, the feeling's always still there, but I've just got that perception now that it's good to be nervous. However, I think sometimes when I start to feel a bit overwhelmed or nervous, the more I think about that feeling, the more it kind of grows. Um, so now it's just like, okay, it's there, and that's fine. Just kind of carry on. And once you get into the moment, so say for example, last week I was nervous about coaching the scholars and some of the players from the higher teams. Um, but once you get into the moment, it's like you get this rush, and it's like I'm here now, and all those feelings sort of go away. So I think it's just important to make sure that we don't run away from the nervousness. We don't let ourselves crumble to it, or avoid doing the thing we're nervous about. Because once you're in it, you feel so good about it, and you're in that moment and you're embracing it, and afterwards you feel so great, and that's where that growth is. And in terms of embracing moments, I know you mentioned a little bit about taking in moments a little bit more while you're out in Australia in the pre-chat, and it's funny because I was watching Death in Paradise. You ever watched that?
No, I'm not.
It's just a cheesy detective thing on BBC iPlayer, set in the Caribbean. Um, but there was this bloke who's a detective, and he's always rushing around, and he's always doing things so quickly. He's always eating his food so quick, drinking his beer so quick. But then towards the end, it's not related to the detective stuff, but just for himself, he actually just took a slow bite of his food, had a beer, looked up around him, said hello to some people, and just that little shift in behavior means he embraced the moment so much more. So, why do you think you haven't been embracing certain moments as much? And why would you like to do that more? And what does that mean to you?
Sort of because I get a bit nervous about those. Like, there's some days where I'm just like, I can't be bothered to go to the beach. And it's like, is it because you can't be bothered, or do you just not want to be around a load of people? And I think both of them are valid, by the way. If you don't want to go to the beach or you don't want to do something because there's a load of people there, that's totally fair. And I don't think that anyone should be hounded for that feeling. Um, but in all honesty, bro, probably like I would say, how do I word it? I'm trying to think of a way to word what I feel in those moments when I don't sort of enjoy the moment enough. Because it's not that I don't enjoy it or that I don't want to, but it's almost like a hidden anxiety, um,
Just
and
preventing
almost,
you from enjoying it?
yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. And but the more I've kind of just said yes to things and blindly kind of followed people, the more I've had fun. Like there's just so many instances this week where someone's been like, "Do you want to go and do this?" And I'm like, "Nah." Or like I went by work after the gym, when I text you and had a really, really good session. And my boss was there, he's like, "Oh, have a beer." And I'm like, "Okay." We ended up having loads of beers, having loads of fun. And I'm like, God, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Look back in the morning, I was really hungover. But then at the time, you're like, that was so fun. We made memories. I made a good friend, and through that night, I went and had a bit of Italian food at this restaurant. And bro, I actually did what you just said. I ate the food a little bit slower. I read my Anthony Bourdain book, which was about cooking anyway. And I was kind of like, well, I need to just enjoy this food a little bit more. Like, let's just enjoy this food. Let's actually dissect this food for what it is. Like, what are you feeling? What does it make you feel like? Had a beer, and just sat there in the sun and just enjoyed it. I just thought, shit, I'm going home in May, the first week of May. It's like, wow, I've just got to enjoy every moment. And then we went to this beach yesterday, and I'm like, I need to do this more. The first thought I had was, damn, I haven't done this enough. I'm annoyed with myself. But it's like, stop looking back for a minute and look forward. If this was your last day here, look back and be regretting it. I've got 5 months left, man. So maybe I didn't do it before enough, but I'm going to do it now. And that's good. And I think that's why it's important to kind of be like looking at life maybe from a kind of glass half full perspective. I think maybe that's probably the best way to look at it, I would say, because there's so many different perspectives. And as soon as you kind of try and spin things to try and be a little bit more positive, I do think that makes a difference. And I don't mean spin things, but when people say, "I'm so annoyed, this is such a long shift," I'm like, be grateful you got the hours, man. Oh, someone didn't get the hours. Oh, right, okay. Maybe I should just be grateful, actually. Let's just get it over and done with and go home and have a beer and chill. And all these little things. Um, and I will just say to you, Dan, as well, like, it's really hard planning to go home because, like I said to you before, there's like this magnetic pull of Sydney's basically a home to me. I've not felt this comfortable in many places. to the extent where I'm like, I could definitely live here. There's been places where I'm like, yeah, probably, like Berlin, or you could maybe live there. Here's like a wow, for sure, no doubt. And then you've got home pulling you because you've got friends and family. And it's like, Jesus Christ, it's a horrible thing to be in the middle of. It's horrible. And it's in my mind, Dan, it's quite hard to plan and enjoy the next few months because I'm also planning to go home and enjoy that. So it's like trying to always fix your mentality up in those little moments.
And that's
Um,
where that's where you can take on board the embracing those moments in those next few months before home. Have you just sit down, have your plan for when you're back home. It's going to be something that's on your mind throughout your days, but it doesn't mean that you can't then enjoy the moment for what it is right there. Let's say you're walking in the sun, you might be thinking about home, but you're still in the moment.
mm,
And what you said about having that food and letting the sun sit on your face and you're eating your food and you're reading your book and that's mindfulness. That's taking things in. That's noticing. And I think that is something which we could, we say we could always practice more, and it's so true. I think a lot of us kind of take a lot for granted and are very passive. But if you actually, I was with Derek a couple of weeks ago having a coffee, and he said to me, he said, grab the end of your seat, grab the other end of the seat, plant your feet. You're here now. You're present. You've locked into this. It's me and you right now, sat here, and just little exercises like that, like just plant your feet, look around you, be where your feet are at and just be like, wow. I mean, shout out Will because he came on the podcast. If you want to listen
yeah,
to that, Making It
yes.
Moments, give it a listen. But he said he was doing some interviews for his dissertation, and he was interviewing this physio from, I believe it was Newcastle Red Bulls, the rugby team. And during the interview, he was just like, wow, I'm actually interviewing someone who's like in a role I'm really interested by. And it's these moments where we're doing something which is actually great, but do you want to be in a position in the future where you look back and go, oh, I didn't take that in as much as I should have. And you've got a few months now in Australia you've got the opportunity to take in all these moments. Yes, you've got home life coming down the corner, but that doesn't need to consume you. And you don't want to get home and then realize, oh crap, I thought too much about being home and now I'm here. I'm thinking about being back in Australia. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Morgan Housel, but I heard, and he once said that him and his family were planning this really nice holiday, and they've been planning it for a while. They've saved up all their money, and he eventually got there, and the first thought that came into his head was, "Oh, I would like to do this again next year." And there's this constant feeling of what's next, what's next. But can you just notice and can you embrace the moments more? And you've got a few months now to be in Australia because this experience is going to be one of the best experiences in your entire life. To just embrace these moments and realize how awesome it is.
But also, bro, I will just say as well, like, I sat back and I was prompted by a conversation with a friend. But I was like, I've learned a lot this year. And I'm not the same person I was when I last saw you in person. I'm still goofy, still an idiot. Like, I still do really stupid things and I still make the same mistakes I made at home. The difference is I make the mistakes with an experience of being an independent adult living 10,000 miles from home. So things that I wasn't so aware of the risk of, I know now. I know what it feels like to lose a job. I know what it feels like to have no money. I know what it feels like to go and book a tattoo on your own for the first time, to go and have to pay a medical bill you don't want to pay, or be without your mum when you've got the flu. Like these little things. And by the way, being without your parents when you've got an illness is just the worst thing in the world. It just makes it a million times worse because I'm like, if I was sick at home, I'd be saying, Mum, could you get me a meal deal or just some cold fruit or something like that? And whereas now I'm like, oh, I've got to look after myself. You know what I mean? What do you mean I've got to look after myself? Even basic house chores and stuff. Like, I would like to think that I was okay with them, but I know in reality I was probably not what I should be. And it feels like when I get home, bro, I'll actually enjoy things more because I understand consequences, but also the benefits of certain things and the feeling of independence. And it's only when you take a bird's eye view of journeys and moments and feelings that you can actually understand like your progress as a person. And progress isn't a straight line, like we've always said. It's kind of a horrible, bumpy, graph. But either way, it's going up. and that's all that matters. And I just think that the next few months, bro, I'm just going to take it every day as it comes. I've got some really cool stuff to look forward to, like Melbourne. Um, it's going to be tough to go to Melbourne because we've got a staff boat party that's Miami Vice style, so I need to get back early morning to go to that. And then I'm watching Deftones live. All these things, man. I just think it's just like, what a sick year. What a
Exactly, man.
what a sick. I need to do things more with the vision of making my kids realize how cool of a dad they've got, man. Maybe maybe
And
that's
that's
what
the
I need
thing.
to do.
Take it all in, man. Just all these moments, just embrace them because you're living a great opportunity right now, and it's so cool to see. And we look back on other episodes of when you were doing the sales and stuff like that, and you're in a position now where you're actually living that life you've always wanted to out in Australia. And I wanted to mention something last week, and I don't think I got round to it, but there was a song on. It's not really a song; it's more like an interlude, sort of like sketch sort of thing on one of Radiohead's albums, OK Computer, and it's called "Fitter Happier." Are you aware of what I'm on about? It's like a loop of like humans being this productive loop where you're constantly having to improve your diet. We're like, I think it's something like described us as like being like pigs or something like that, and we're constantly like doing things the next thing, and we need to. And I noticed when I was talking in previous episodes about feeling a bit rigid in my life, and what I'm really happy I've kind of let go of now is I used to have this thing where I needed to know exactly what I was doing every hour. So it was almost like, okay, 9 till 10, doing the podcast with Jamie. 10 to 11, I'll do a bit of uni work. 11 till 12, I'll go on a run. 12 till 2, I'll do some coaching stuff. And like, it was too scheduled. It was too robotic, and that's when I started to burn out a lot. And now I've kind of let go of that because I felt like that was productive. And now I've
Yeah.
sort of let go of that, and I'm a lot more fluid. And I still do these things because I know I need to do them, but it's more I do them as they come, and I'm more embracing the moments and just taking it in and just doing it as life kind of happens, as opposed to wanting to constantly be productive. You realize how much you get to embrace things. And I think in terms of embracing moments, I think a lot of it is being in that present moment as opposed to always thinking about what's happening later. And I used to see time with like Scarlett as like, oh, that's I've got a slot with Scarlett. Like I was appointing myself to things. I was scheduling
Mm.
my life, and
Yeah, yes, bro.
that's not inspiring. That's not fun. That's just robotic. And I think it's very easy to fall into this trap of being a productive pig, if you want to call it that. I don't know if that's what Radiohead or whatever. Um, and I think we do. I think it's productive to not have a schedule, but obviously you need to make sure you're doing the things that you need to be getting done. But just riding the waves of life and taking it as it comes. And yes, a conversation might go for 30 minutes when you should be doing some uni work, but that conversation could be so impactful for you. And life's a fluid game, if you know what I mean. And it's fun to embrace it and take it in and ride with it as opposed to trying to constantly force yourself into it.
And you know what, bro, as well? I think like you're absolutely right. And I think that a to-do list should actually not really just be a direction of what you need to do. It should be a framework of what you want to achieve. Just a framework. The timing, the results of it, that all comes down the line, right? But the more I look at my to-do list, the more I go, God, I need to do all this today. Jeez. And then before you know it, I don't do anything. And on the days where I just say, right, I'm going to go beach today, I'll come home and I'll do something. I'm like, oh, got a spare
Exactly.
hour. I'll do
Exactly.
this. And it's good to live like that. We aren't, like you said, we aren't robots. And can I just say, it brings me great joy that you've discovered Radiohead and that, like, that
Properly, yeah.
you.
Obviously, I knew of them, but now I've actually properly started listening.
I know, but this is what I love because, and also the power of music, the power that music has you know, over us. And we've been saying it for a while, bro, like, about something that Rick Rubin said on his podcast, where he was like, if someone recommends something to him 3 times from 3 different people or whatever, even if he hates the idea of it, he just goes and listens to it, or he just goes and sees it because it's like something somewhere trying to tell him something. And I feel very much like with music, especially the heavy metal thing, used to hate it. Now I love it, and it's like you tie it to your emotions. And bro, I want to say, and I know that we always say this in one form or another, but I'm very grateful to you, bro, because there's been some really sort of difficult moments um, for me on this journey. but I feel like because of our chats weekly, um, I've been able to really kind of not get through it. I was always going to get through it. This is a good thing, but I've been able to enjoy it more and open my eyes to different perspectives on things, bro. But I kind of wanted to end up by asking you a bit of a question because you don't know how long you're going to be in Newcastle for, right? For uni. Maybe you've got an idea. I know you're thinking about a few things, but do you ever worry about when your time in Newcastle, is kind of no longer at a point where you're there for education anymore and you're done? Like you just kind of it's just a choice at that point.
It's something I definitely think about, but I definitely wouldn't say I worry about it. And I think it would be a bit dangerous for me if I were worrying about it because
Hmm.
I'm excited for the future. However, I think the reason why I don't worry too much about the future is because I've got a good idea of what direction I want to go down. I know I want to do a master's next year. I know after that I need to do my training as a sports psychologist. And then after that, I'll have a proper job and I'll be working for a club or my own business or different athletes, etc., etc. I've got a good idea of the path. I just don't particularly know all the steps, if you know what I mean. However, if I didn't know the path, I would imagine I'd be a lot more worried. So for me, no, I'm more excited, if anything. Um, and I would say that's because I know the path that's laid out, and I'm excited to see what the steps are, as opposed to worrying about what's on the other end of the path. Because I think you can be very nervous and worried about the future, but realistically, for me, I feel like there's a lot of good that holds out there, and I'm excited to go down that route. And I feel like you maybe asked that question because are you worrying about that for home and what's going to happen when you get home? Maybe it's because there's a lot of unknown.
I'm genuinely interested as well, bro, because I think that Newcastle has become a home to you, and you've lived there for a while now. Various different settings with various different people, um, and I guess in a way, yeah, I'm curious to understand your perspective on it because that is going to be me. Um, but it's such a weird life is so crazy because you just want to be a nomad. I mean, I just want to be a nomad. I just want to move between places, do a job that's remote or something, just have a bit of fun. But like, it's so fascinating, and you kind of don't realize it till you turn 18 or you leave school, just how free you are to go and do whatever you want, but also how like not free you are from your own mind and its restrictions that it puts on you. So half the part of becoming an adult is like learning how to actually free yourself and to go and do things as much as it is like going and doing things. You know what I mean? Because there's just like mental burdens and all that sort of stuff that stops you a little bit.
No, I feel you, bro. And that I think what you're getting at is just that idea of, what you wait for a long time to become an adult, and you do have so much freedom, but your perceptions of things and the way you view things can hold you back from that freedom. And I think it's what can you find in your life which gives you that freeing feeling to the point where when you do it, it's not too much of a thought. You're in that flow state, and if you can find those things in life, you're in a good sweet spot, I'd say.
Absolutely. Well, bro, it's been good talking to you, my friend. It's been a good 35 minutes of chat. And if you've enjoyed it as well, make sure you contact us. We're still looking for people to email us, DM us, all the things you want to do. Makingitpoddy@gmail.com or makingitpoddy on any of our socials. Dan, it's been a great chat. Hopefully, this week brings us some more good stuff. It's going to be a busy one, I think. But we'll be back every single Tuesday at 10 in the morning. So do not miss the next one. See you there.
Take it easy. Thanks for listening.